the thing that bothers me maybe the most. And you know, when I look at parked outside in the parking lot, I have a 2002 Toyota Tundra, and plugged into that, I have a little Bluetooth dongle that plugs into the OBD2 port, which basically allows me to access the onboard computer. And that can tell me about 50 channels of live data about my 2002 Tundra, because there are sensors in the engine, mass airflow rate, fuel injection timing, all this stuff. That's a 2002 Toyota Tundra. That is like, over the course of the life of that vehicle, probably 10 billion times more data than I will have about my body when I die at the current rate. And that's just ridiculous. Yeah, you know, you get an Airbus A350 passenger airplane collects 2.5 terabytes of data on every flight about essentially infinite sensors that are all over that vehicle. They have strain gauges on the wings showing how much they're flexing. They have every parameter of the engine's performance. All that stuff is stored in a recorder, because it is both used to understand performance of the vehicle and to prevent an unacceptable failure, as well as to do forensics. But its main purpose is to maintain the function of that life or death aircraft. Human health is also life or death. And I just simply, like, my brain doesn't understand why we haven't approached it in that same way. Like, we should be instrumenting our bodies in the way that we instrument our machines to understand what's going on, and to prevent failure. So I think I have just you know, that's really not how health textbooks are written. And I understand that there is quite a bit of simplification there. I'm oversimplifying the problem. I understand that. But sometimes that's what you have to do with hard problems. It's just like, what's the smallest bite? You know, just, you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's how I approach it.
Dude, that's an unbelievable mental model. I've never thought about it from that perspective before, that this truly, like, having access to these biomarkers and these data points truly is a matter of life or death. And then you imagine the things that you would be able to prevent just by having the right data, and how many people live their lives without knowing the most basic but fundamental biomarkers that actually predict whether you're going to be healthy long-term or not. It's crazy. Like, how out of every 10 Americans, like, how many of those Americans could tell you, you know, their blood sugar levels, their heart rate, you know, waist size, just very basic things that we know because we've put in the 10,000 hours and we've kind of needed to out of necessity. But I don't know, maybe 9 out of 10 Americans probably couldn't tell you that data, is my guess, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, right now, 88% of Americans have at least one symptom of metabolic dysfunction. You got 100 million, roughly, Americans with prediabetes or diabetes. 70% of them at least will get type 2 if they don't intervene. 80% of them don't know they have it. 80% of people with prediabetes, of which there are 90 million, do not know that they are pre-diabetic. I mean, that is the most basic information about your health state. And so, yeah, I mean, absolutely 9 out of 10 people would not know. And the problem is we have this confusion about what numbers we do know actually mean. So in a world where we get one blood panel per year at most people are not getting health checkups once a year. Those that are, you get one data point, you get your blood panel at your checkup, and that gives you a number. Triglycerides, 105. Your triglycerides will double after a meal. That's well known. Like, the rate at which your triglycerides change is extremely dynamic.
Wow.
So you don't have a triglyceride level of 105. You had that at that moment that you got your blood checked. And we have this confusion. So, like, often, you know, literally often, and I personally used to, like, throw numbers like that around because I thought that they were sort of immutable characteristics. Like, my triglycerides are 105. And we just don't understand that these things change constantly. We are literally a wet chemistry set. We are putting chemicals in, and new chemicals have to be synthesized to address those chemicals, break them down, make them into new chemicals. And that's happening constantly in reaction to the sunlight, in reaction to the food that we're eating, the sleep we're getting, our current health state, on and on and on. And I think we are so confused because we've used these tools that, you know, where the system tells you that getting your blood measured once a year is understanding your health state and understanding your triglycerides. And that is not what's happening. They are changing constantly. It looks like this, it doesn't look like this, right? And so, yeah, belaboring the point, but I think we are actually, not only are people not connected with anything about their internal health state and the numbers that define it, but the numbers they are familiar with are, like, not useful.
Yeah, I don't think you're belaboring the point at all. I'm kind of blown away just thinking about the fact that you think about all the people that, you know, the variables, the way that things can change from one day to the next with your blood work. You do one thing wrong, it pops a totally different score. and then you're going on all these medication, these prescriptions, when it's like the future is what you're talking about, of probably like hyper personalized to the point where it's so convenient, where you can actually test all the time, where you're not overly obsessed with it, but you have like you have readings almost every single day of like how these biomarkers are changing.
Yeah. I mean, think 10 years in the future and looking back, I mean, is it likely that we're going to be able to tell the real-time health state of, okay, let me just say this. 10 years from now, for sure, I will be able to tell the real-time health state of my body unquestionably. Like it just seems obvious. Like we'll have some technology will allow me to know the state of my body in a comprehensive way instead of having to do these like discrete tests when there's a risk that I have, you know, incurable illnesses. Like that doesn't seem like the right way. So the right way will probably happen 10 years from now. Like that's typically how we do things in life. We're like, yeah, we'll have flying cars in 10 years. The problem is like, I think we have these, we believe these things, that the future will deliver us a solution. But then in the moment, we sort of deny the assumptions that would go into believing that.
Definitely.
So if you think that, then that means that you think you can measure the things that define your health. And I agree with you. But why then are we not working on that technology? Why do people roll their eyes at the idea that we can, in real time, understand the state of the human body? I can both understand how we got here and also get really frustrated by it because it's a situation where we need to bring in different perspectives, as you said, and we need to really let loose technology to do the thing that it's supposed to do. But we should do it in a very similar way to what we do in other industries.